Make sure you know the difference between loyalty and honor, and pray that you never have to choose.
I am Nazgrim, Fist of the War Chief, and General of the Horde Army. If I must die today, I will die with honor in battle for the Horde!
What of Nazgrim? Speak to me!
You have learned much, and learned well. An honorable battle.
Nazgrim, a great leader and a fine warrior. He valued his oath to the war chief more than his life.
In the end, I stood by the war chief because it was my duty.
I tried to tell him that Hellscream betrayed us. But Nazgrim, too loyal, too proud. Damn Hellscream. His ambition tore our Horde apart.
May your strength lead the Horde into a new era of prosperity.
General Nazgrim was a character that was with us for many, many years. Starting as just a sergeant during Wrath of the Lich King, he quickly rose through the ranks of the Horde. We ventured with him in Grizzly Hills and Vashir, but he was mainly involved in the campaign on Pandaria, and that's where a lot of players know him from. Nazgrim was general of the Horde army during the Mists of Pandaria campaign. He was very good to the player character and showed a degree of respect to you as you quested with him. I also liked how Nazgrim respected the other races of the Horde, something that he felt like he was a good mix of the Thrall-era Horde and the Garrosh-era Horde. He met his tragic end during the Siege of Orgrimmar, but had a very complete character arc. Nazgrim knew Hellscream was in the wrong, but he stood by him until the very end, due to his code of honor. Honor is a very interesting subject when looking at Orcish culture. I think Nazgrim's most honorable moment is when he lets Thrall and Saurfang into Orgrimmar so they can confront Garrosh Hellscream and put a stop to the madness. I never put two and two together, but when Saurfang says,
Make sure you know the difference between loyalty and honor, and pray that you never have to choose.
he was referring to Nazgrim, and it's pretty cool how his current Battle for Azeroth arc mirrors Nazgrim in a way. I feel this is kind of a what-if storyline, had Nazgrim chose to side with Vol'jin and the Rebellion, rather than siding with Hellscream. Saurfang, as of right now, has left the Horde due to the actions of Sylvanas Windrunner during the War of the Thorns and the Battle for Undercity, but he certainly hasn't lost the heart of the Horde, and he certainly cares a lot about the faction still and is trying to restore honor to it. I feel Saurfang would have met the same fate as Nazgrim had he stayed loyal to Sylvanas, inevitably during patch 8.3 and whatever confrontation we have with her at the end of the war campaign. I feel Saurfang looked at Nazgrim kinda as a father figure because of what happened to Dranosh. I also want to point out that General Nazgrim is currently active in the storyline as one of the 4 horsemen in the Knights of the Ebon Blade. This was a story beat that I find interesting, but it didn't really jive well with me, considering how well his storyline ended in Mists of Pandaria, but I do understand how it can be kind of interesting from a character perspective. Nazgrim got his warrior's death, and his grave has essentially been defiled by the Ebon Blade. I don't think we'll ever see these two characters interact, per se, but it would be kind of interesting, considering Saurfang's son got risen as a Death Knight by the Lich King at one point. And considering that father figure thing I'd mentioned, it would be really sad to see Saurfang potentially confront his once friend. A nice story beat I always found during the Siege of Orgrimmar was when Saurfang recognized General Nazgrim. I was actually really curious if any characters are even going to bring him up, or was he just going to die a one-off raid boss, but I'm happy to say he remained a prominent character throughout the whole storyline. Nazgrim was probably one of my favorite parts of Mists of Pandaria, and I was really sad to see him go in Siege of Orgrimmar. I won't lie guys, my heart kind of stopped a little bit when I saw him in the dungeon journal during Siege in 5.4. In fact, if we were going back to Mists of Pandaria, I always actually considered Nazgrim a candidate for War Chief during the early portion of the storyline, when Blizzard had mentioned they were going to off Garrosh Hellscream. So guys, I want to hear below in the comments, what did you think of General Nazgrim? Did you think he was silly for staying with Garrosh Josh until the end, or do you respect him for going by his code of honor? I'd love to hear below. This character definitely caused a lot of discussion during Mists of Pandaria, and people still talk about him to this day because of how interesting his character was and his choices. So anyway, guys, I'll see you next time.
A lot of people say I don't have honor, and that may be so, but I am very clever. For example, unleashing the plague on the Alliance was pretty crafty if you ask me. You don't see Saurfang or Thrall doing that. Anyways, thank you for watching another episode of Box and Jackalope, and I'm excited to see you next time. Ta-ta!